Hello, I'm Deborah January Beavers, President of Houston Wilderness. I am going to talk today about the tools in the Resilience Toolbox for municipal utility districts, developers, and other entities, including the current 1% Parks and Recreation bond allowance and the Texas Flood Infrastructure Fund. A quick note about Houston Wilderness. We work with a broad alliance of business, environmental, and government interests to protect and promote the 10 diverse ecoregions in the 13-plus county area around Houston, Galveston Bay, and the Gulf of Mexico. As you see here on the map, this area includes coastal prairies, forests, wetlands, and waterways. Houston Wilderness connects people to the 10 ecoregions in multiple counties around Greater Houston through large-scale environmental initiatives, including the 8-county regional conservation plan, the Port of Houston Trees program, our statewide Monarch Flyway strategy, and our collaborative grant organizing program. And all of these initiatives ensure that relevant stakeholders are at the table and collaborative solutions are supported and implemented. The 8-county Gulf Houston Regional Conservation Plan is a long-term collaborative of environmental business and governmental entities working together to implement an ecosystem continuity and connectivity plan for the Gulf Houston region through implementation of 3 goals. We do so to enhance resilience and to provide an online interactive GIS-based database of working list and funded environmental projects in the region. And this can be found at Houston Wilderness website as well as gulfhoustonrcp.org. The 3 key goals are: 1, reaching 24% by 2040 in protected, preserved, nature-based infrastructure in the 8-county region, providing 50% by 2040 in nature-based stabilization techniques on riparian, developed, and undeveloped lands in the region. So that's stormwater infrastructure, LID techniques, etc. And 3, working toward a 0.4% annual increase in organic carbon sequestration on regional lands through enhancements in tree planting, native grasses, our soils in general, and oyster reefs. We keep track of the protected preserved land in each of these 8 counties, which is the same coverage area as the Houston Metropolitan Statistical Area, or the MSA. We know as of May 20th that 14.7% of the 8-county region, which is 731,000 acres, has some type of protected preserved land on it, including parks, detention areas and reservoirs, riparian rights-of-way, lakes, ponds, natural trails, and other nature-based infrastructure. Over 31,000 of the 731,000 acres exists currently in MUD communities and MPCs. But much more is needed to provide the ecosystem services required for the region so that we can provide increased resilience for residents and businesses. According to Myers Research, when they presented to this conference in 2018, following Hurricane Harvey, within the same Houston MSA, there are 945 districts comprised of 857 MUDs, 15 LIDs, and 56 water control improvement districts. All of these collectively generally are called MUDs. The audience listening today knows well that this region's key areas of green space and nature-based infrastructure lie within the MUD's coverage area, shown on this map. Parks, green space, natural ponds, lakes, bioswales, and other amenities are critical to these communities and to the ones up and downstream of them for purposes of flood and erosion control, air and water quality, recreational use, habitat enhancement, residential health, and the more recent recognition of substantial carbon sequestration. All of these benefits generally we call ecosystem services. And these MUDs are all different ages, built at various times over many decades. And so it's become increasingly clear that MUDs and MPCs need tools in their resilience toolbox to help coordinate and pay for these critically important nature-based infrastructure needs. Key tools include the recreation facility bonds that are eligible for in some counties in Texas, and the new Texas Flood Infrastructure Fund, and creation of additional parks and green spaces through other private and public funding opportunities. I am concentrating on the 1% recreational bond cap today, but I will also touch on the other two funding tools. Under Texas law, the types of recreational facilities in municipal utility districts and other water districts eligible for recreational bonds include forests and green belts, open spaces and native habitat, sidewalks, paths, trails, boardwalks, pedestrian bridges, outdoor ball fields, parks, amenity lakes and other water features, non-air conditioned recreational buildings, basketball courts, outdoor tennis, and all types of landscaping with trees and shrubs and other associated irrigation. MUDs may require recreational facilities and obtain funds to develop and maintain them in the same manner as authorized for the acquisition, development, and maintenance of other district facilities. Allowing recreational bonds, also called park bonds, has been very successful and has allowed for hundreds of acres of critical green space. MUDs pay for and finance public infrastructure, such as water, sewer, drainage facilities, and other roads. I don't have to tell most of this audience that. But this is all done through bonds supported by ad valorem taxes, or a good bit of it is. And MUDs located in Bastrop, Bexar, Waller, Travis, Williamson, Harris, Galveston, Brazoria, Montgomery, and Fort Bend counties may also issue bonds supported by ad valorem taxes to pay for the development and maintenance of recreational facilities, but only if the bonds are authorized by a majority vote of the voters of the district voting in an election held for that purpose and accessible to the general public of the district. The counties outlined in blue on this slide are the counties that may use recreational bonds to provide nature-based infrastructure and add a resilience to their communities. This map illustrates where these counties are located among urban and suburban counties in Texas. But there are restrictions on the bonds that MUDs can issue for recreational facilities, and a MUD's outstanding bond supported by ad valorem taxes for recreational facilities may not exceed 1% of the taxable value of the property in the district at the time of the issuance of the debt. This is true for new as well as built out communities. This limitation does not apply to the financing of any other MUD facility other than paying for recreational facilities, which is the limitation. And we all know that lots of nature-based infrastructure through protected preserved lands of various kinds are needed to protect Texas from increased rain events, severe drought, wildfires and tornadoes, riverine erosion and other natural and man-made occurrences, and to continue to provide natural areas for people to go for recreation and outdoor activity. A particularly graphic example is shown in this slide by NASA's Earth Observatory, which shows the amount of sediment and silt in the major rivers and in Galveston Bay following Hurricane Harvey. In that same presentation that Myers Research gave at the 2018 AWBD conference, their post-Harvey survey showed that only 3% of homes in areas developed after 2009 flooded as a result of Harvey. The 2009 date is significant because in that year, Harris County adopted more stringent flood development regulations as well as new floodplain maps after Tropical Storm Allison. And we know that cities and counties around Texas are working on resilience plans that provide their communities with better protection from increased natural and man-made occurrences, like I mentioned earlier, in addition to providing much needed recreational parks and green space as our population grows. For example, in early 2020, the city of Houston initiated its Resilient Houston Plan, a framework for collective action that links existing efforts with new ones to protect Houston against future disasters and chronic stresses. Resilient Houston was forged during an 18-month process in collaboration with local stakeholders and regional, national, and global partners, and the Gulf Houston RCP 3 key goals that I mentioned earlier overlap with 3 of the goals of the Resilient Houston Plan. Goal 6, to plant 4.6 million trees, native trees, in the greater Houston area by 2030. Goal 11, to add 100 new green stormwater infrastructure projects by 2025. And goal 16, to conserve 24% of undeveloped regional lands as natural spaces by 2040. There are lots of possibilities on the ways that various MUDs are creating parks and green space to serve all these needed ecosystem service purposes. I will provide a few examples of these options in this presentation today, but I know there are many more out there that I could have provided as wonderful examples. In master plan communities, the community of Bridgeland, west of Houston, has provided a variety of large nature-based infrastructure, recreational facilities that provide resilience and recreation to their communities. The ecosystems include wildlife, wetlands, forestation, and native meadows. The social systems include a birding tower, a pavilion, event lawns, and play stations. Water systems have been installed in the green space to allow for substantial water capture and reuse through bioswales and other filtration systems. Many of these amenities were funded through use of recreation bonds, but the cap required them to add additional funds to complete the full scope of nature-based infrastructure they felt was needed for the community. Likewise, the development of Cross Creek Ranch enhanced the water flow through their communities, significantly increasing the amount of ecosystem services, flood and erosion control, air and water quality, carbon sequestration, wildlife habitat, and recreational use to provide resilience for the communities. Notice the polishing lakes on the left side of the development and Fluellen Creek on the right side. Here are some before and after photos of the type of land use enhancements now existing in Cross Creek Ranch. Before the polishing pond, a type of water filtering feature was created, and after creation in 2014. And an overview of the amenity polishing lakes that are currently existing on the property. Here is a before photo of Fluellen Creek in 2004 inside the development. And after creation of the nature-based infrastructure, recreational amenities through use of the 1% allowable recreation bonds in phase 3 of the enhancements. And here is the ecological restoration results from this past spring. Really beautiful. Use of recreational bonds to improve, add resilience to communities is important all over the state. But MUDs in older built-out communities are particularly in need of such tools to provide enhancements for their residents. Today, I'll highlight one such example. Again, I know there are hundreds of communities working to enhance nature-based infrastructure in Texas. I will go into a little more detail on this recreational bond enhancement because it illustrates multiple ways that these funds can be used to meet different ecosystem services needs in a community. Mandolin Gardens Park forms the green heart of Harris County MUD 230. The $3.6 million park was constructed in 2010 with park or recreational facility bond funds. The project transformed the 2 detention basins adjacent to Summit Bridge Lane from overgrown, unused areas into an amazing destination park. The before photo of the North Basin is in the upper left-hand corner in 2008, and progressing to 2010 and 2013 and then 2020 as the enhanced recreational nature-based infrastructure is completed and is flourishing. The process of reshaping the basins added 13% stormwater detention capacity, and the finished park raised home values in the surrounding neighborhoods. In the South Basin, the before photo is in the upper left-hand corner, again, beginning in 2008, and progressing to 2010 and 2013, and then 2020. Once completed, MUD 230's Parks and Trails Master Plan will be a part of a regional trail system that includes a portion of the future Cypress Creek corridor, which ultimately will be over 30 miles. The trail system will pass through the 100-acre woods, include a trail portion parallel to Jones Road by Precinct 4 with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Grant, connect to another regional park, as well as inclusion of over 5 miles of trails around the MUD itself. The construction of Mandolin Gardens acted as a catalyst for additional phases with park overlays on MUD 230's detention basins that add miles of trails to their community. The Triangle Basin connects to Mandolin Garden, and construction began in 2016 as the next logical phase of MUD 230's Park Master Plan. The Texas Forest Service has recorded the growth rate of trees on these projects, as they have few chemical-free organic projects to compare with traditional ones. Let me rephrase that. The Texas Forest Service recorded the growth rate of these native trees on these projects because they had so few chemicals involved in them, and their organic properties allowed them, than more traditional ones, allowed them to be able to do additional analysis of the success and growth rate of the trees on the property. The real economic benefit for the district is huge benefits for trail users and big value for birds and wildlife, in addition to all the ecosystem services that I've already mentioned. The third phase of construction focused on the basin of the neighborhood south of Mandolin Gardens across Grant Road. An overview of the Mandolin Prairie completed construction in 2018 with a loop trail and acres of pollinator habitat, once again raising home values in the adjacent neighborhood. The trail is heavily used while birds and pollinators are abundant. Interpretive signs help residents identify native plants, butterflies, and birds. And here is an on-the-ground view of the spectacular restored Mandolin Prairie. The next phase of the master plan construction focuses on a basin east of Mandolin Garden. Fair Lane Village Park is currently under construction and will add a loop trail, plantings, and amenities to turn the existing detention basin into a dual-use park. Mandolin Gardens Park forms the green heart of Harris County MUD 2030, and an older built-out community. The $3.6 million park was constructed in 2010 with recreational facility bonds. A new tool in the Resilience Toolbox is the recently enacted Texas Flood Infrastructure Fund. Passed by the legislature and approved by the Texas voters, the FIF, the acronym, program provides financial assistance in the form of loans and grants for flood control, flood mitigation, and drainage projects. Administration of the project takes place through the Texas Water Development Board. Political subdivisions are eligible to apply for financial assistance for flood mitigation projects. This includes cities, counties, and any district or authority created under Article 3, Section 52, or Article 16, Section 59 of the Texas Constitution. Specific to Category 1, flood protection planning for watersheds only, eligible political subdivision applicants include city, county, district, or authorities created under Article 3 and Article 16 of the Texas Constitution, any other political subdivision of the state, any interstate compact commission to which the state is a party, and any nonprofit water supply corporation created and operating under Chapter 67. A wide range of nature-based solutions are eligible for FIF assistance, and many of these overlap with the recreational uses in the 1% recreational bond option. You'll notice here we have drainage infrastructure, flood control infrastructure, flood mitigation infrastructure, retention basins, detention ponds, sustainable infrastructure, non-structural flood mitigation, erosion control, stabilization techniques, levees, rehabilitation of existing infrastructure, restoration of riparian corridors and floodplain, natural erosion, and runoff control. Some of the same areas that were covered under the recreational bond, except without, of course, the 1% cap. The other tool in the resiliency toolbox that I will briefly mention is the opportunity for MUDs and other entities to collaborate in public-private partnerships to provide enhanced green space to their communities. Exploration Green, a Clear Lake City Water Authority's project to turn a former golf course into a detention pond that will eventually hold 500 million gallons of stormwater, began as a drainage facility with added amenities. Now, the project is viewed as a nature conservancy that also helps drain stormwater. Exploration Green Conservancy has been created, and like many enhanced nature-based infrastructure projects around the state, the opportunity for recreation while also enjoying social distancing is possible in these outdoor spaces. This happens to be HW staff. We took a trip out to Exploration Green about 2 months ago now and enjoyed a little social distancing and time together. And lastly, we're all aware of the growing interest in ensuring that children and families spend more time outside to enjoy the many benefits of nature, which all of these recreational enhancements provide. I want to thank several folks for providing me with slides for this presentation today. Tricia Bresso at Howard Hughes, Rob Bamford at Johnson Development, Mary Talley at Talley Landscape Architecture, Matt Baumgarten at SWA, the West Houston Association, ABHR and Paige Schwartz, and the AWBD staff for their assistance and use of many of the slides that I provided today. If you would like a little more information on Houston Wilderness or the Regional Conservation Plan, you will find these websites on this slide. We'll get you there. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to get to speak to you today. Feel free to reach out to me anytime at Deborah@HoustonWilderness.org if I can answer any questions or provide you with any additional information, and have a great day.